Hi there. My name's Christian, and welcome to what I call Dude on a Couch, which is essentially just me sitting here and talking into the mic. I don't really have anyone to talk with when I'm here, and I'm kind of just, I don't know, I'm speaking as if I'm talking to myself, kind of, I would say. And I don't know, just about topics that are on my brain kind of currently. I find my brain works a little bit too fast and too many things come up at once, and I have these things I call them I call them my intrusive ideas, and it's where an idea to make something comes to my head, and I'll almost drive myself crazy until I do it, which is how this kind of started. Was I had this equipment. I thought I might as well just play with this and do this for fun, and a friend of mine had told me I should post it, and I didn't really make this to do that. This was more kind of just like a video journal for myself, because I don't really write much, and I always tell people to journal. I'm a bit of a hypocrite in that, I would say. So I always tell people to journal, and I don't even journal myself, but I find it easier for me to make a video, because that's kind of where my expertise lies, and I just have fun doing it. I'm never really in front of the camera. I don't really like looking at myself in that way, and I ended up posting it on YouTube, and like it didn't blow up or anything, but it did blow my expectations, and I got a slew of very positive comments, and that really did make my day. Also, it helped me with the thought, knowing that there's other people out there who kind of share the same thoughts as I do, and who can relate. And I would actually like to go through those comments, and I did respond, because I read every single one of them, and I did respond to each one of them, but I wanted to address them in a video, in my opinion, because I feel like that's a bit more personal. I'd rather do that than just see it as a comment. It was primarily with the first one, and the first one I I didn't really like, but I always get into this thing of you can't always make something perfect. If someone were to make something perfect all the time, it wouldn't we'd have no art, because nothing's ever perfect. And actually, the second one I made, I enjoyed it a lot more. But people seem to really connect with the first one, and the first one was loneliness, love, and people. It's quite broad, I would say, and I can definitely continue to talk on those subjects, because it's a forever changing subject. I'm just gonna go down from the top. The comment here was, don't know why YouTube recommended this to me out of the blue, but I'm down for a low-key chill convo. I really appreciate that, because, especially nowadays, it's kind of hard to just, sometimes even with just friends, to kind of just sit down and just have a talk with them, and sometimes I catch myself saying things, and I just go, wow, I'm so stupid. And it's not a good way to think, but no, it's very nice to just like have a sit down with somebody and fully have a chat with them. I always like to, whenever I meet new people, I don't know, I have this thing where there's only certain people I can kind of really vibe with, I'd say. It's just this energy that I feel off of them, whether I can continue to talk with them or not. And if I do have that feeling like, oh, like I would want to continue chatting with you, I'll ask them to go for coffee, and I say, because I love to pick brains, I love to see how people think, and a saying I always would say is, let's exchange stories. And this is that's been the best saying for me, because I do want to exchange stories. I want to hear people's stories, and I offer I offer some crazy stories, I'd say, as well. But on that comment, I do appreciate the idea that it's just a chill, it's a chill vibe for you. Here, this one's a decent one. It's great just to hear this in the background and miss my daily routine. I'm glad there's people that share the same thought processes as me. Loneliness, what normality is, social construct of people's ideologies. Thanks for the video. Best of luck with your future endeavors. And I really appreciate this one. I really, really do. Thank you so, so much. And yeah, it's I feel like at the age range that I'm within, I'm currently 20. I know one of the comments was how old was I? I'm currently 24. Actually, I turned 25 in a week, and I've got a late birthday, but I was born in 1998. And maybe I'll go through a bit of my story a little bit here. I just don't like necessarily talking about myself too much, especially if it's going to be public. And yeah, I've discovered that there are a lot of people in this age range that feel this, and they feel like they're all alone. And the whole point of this kind of idea of it being out is connecting with people to let them know that no, you're not. It's not just you. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people here who feel the same way and who are trying their best. Everyone's really trying their best. Now the next one, this one's a long one. This is really the one that I really wanted to talk about. This person said, "Great video. I love the vibe I get from this. Also, the assignment thing you did at the end is really good. If you choose to continue your journey of expressing yourself on the internet, it might be neat to have just a little assignment like that to make someone else's life better at the end of every video." I do try and do that. And the assignments are kind of just things that, like little things I've tried to do throughout my life to bring people up. Because it's very... Most of the time, I like to just try and spread positivity. I find everywhere on the internet you look, it's always very negative and people living in fear, and there are bad things in the world going on, and it's good to recognize those and be empathetic towards them. But there's a lot of good happening in the world, and it's very important to remember that, because it's very easy to get lost in the negative. So if you can be a beacon of, sunshine to someone's dark tunnel, even just for a second, it may even just change their path and change their trajectory towards something better. And, you got to just watch it. You just got to watch them fly, which is the best part. Also, if you're reading this, I wonder what you meant by saying that you were helping other people out a lot is hindering yourself, and they had a timestamp. Is it because it's taking time off of you that you could rather use for yourself, or that you're giving something else up by helping them? Because when I'm thinking about helping other people, I think of it as something that I too can grow from, and not really it hindering me, though I don't know the extent of actually helping others that you are talking about. Also, I think I'm really inexperienced at actually and deeply helping other people, so I might just haven't experienced what it's like yet. There's like these random letters, TLDR. Sorry, I don't know what that means, but wonderful video, really inspiring, totally made my day. Thank you so much. Like I think I responded to this saying this one specifically is inspiring me to make the one I'm currently making now. But what I did mean by helping other people is hindering me. It will never hinder me. Helping others will never hinder me, and I don't think it'll ever hinder anyone, which is why we all need to keep doing it more. It's just, sometimes it gets to a point where you're the person for everyone to go to, and it's almost as if you're kind of living in glass. So I like, honestly, I have I have a lot of bad days. And when you're helping someone, it's much more comfortable for them if they're talking to someone who's not having a bad day, but also they're talking to someone who's able to empathize and really connect with them. And so most of the time, if I'm with someone and we're talking about issues, I'll always, no matter what, I always mask how I feel to others, because I've set myself up as that person who is strong and who is self-reliant. And I do value myself as those, but everyone does have those bad days. And I think it was just one of those days where it was one of my bad days. But I think it was like 4 or 5 people call me with problems. I think there was something in the air that day, because like there were like 4 breakups that day. And I just was like, what is happening? And it was the one day off I had after a really long streak of just work and being busy. And so it was the day where I chose where I can just be on my couch and lay down. And it was I think it was 5 hours straight, or 4 hours straight, where I would literally, I kid you not, the call would end and then a different person would call me, and it would be an hour talk about that. The call would end, and then right after, and I just wanted to lay on my couch and watch some TV, because I hadn't been able to do that in a long time. And I think at that point I was just kind of overloaded, and I took my time to have, because that was supposed to be, since it was a lower day for me, that was my like me day. And it didn't take away from me day, because I will always be there to help who I can, but it was more so just an overload of things. And I'll never be burdened by people's problems. And when you're talking to a lot of people and a lot of people have problems, it's easy to get that energy transfer from them and feel the negativity, but you have to learn to block that and kind of see it in a way where it's almost surface, to a point where you don't get affected by the energy, but you're still able to provide consolidation and a shoulder for them, without being super torn down by it. Because a lot of people have some crazy problems, and some so much more severe than anything that you had ever experienced. And all you can really say is, I can feel you, I'm sorry, and I'm here. And yeah, so that's what I really meant. I'll never, and in terms of the relating with people deeply, I tend to try and relate with everyone that I'm closer to, talking to on a deeper level. I just find that's a lot more fun. And there was, in my ego death, off the psychedelics, I was fighting to get back to almost surface level of thinking, because the deeper you go, the more you feel. And it is important. It is good to stay at a surface, but don't get too stuck in the surface, because when you do think deeper into a lot of things, it opens your eyes to different perspectives that you'd never realized before. And having deeper conversations with people allows you to understand their perspective on reality, and that's kind of what we're all trying to do, is just understand each other's perspective on reality, and that's super fun to me. And I always will enjoy hearing what people think about the world around them, what people think about the people that they've surrounded themselves with, because there's convenient relations, and there's meaning relations, and there's all these different relations you have with different people. And you notice as you get older, things start to change. And although everyone experiences things differently, a lot of people experience it the same way. And there's a really popular saying that I'm sure your parents have told you, a few of them actually, which is, you understand when you have children, and I've done the same things that you've done. And I feel that we don't really appreciate our parents until we get older, until we kind of like get more out into the real world, and not necessarily saying that my world's the real world, but we get out into kind of the working class, and we start to gather the idea of how expensive things are, and then also just the day-to-days, and you end up looking up at your parents and saying, wow. Unfortunately, some people see that a bit too late, and some people also don't have the best relations with their parents, because it's also your parents' first time. And there's no professional at being a parent. It's a lot of instinct. Obviously, there's some that are better than others, and some who ended up being parents a bit too soon. and you gotta give people credit. Everyone's really trying their best, and you just need to really appreciate the ones that do try, because the ones who don't, and you know, I sound like a parent, but sometimes they get upset because they care so much, and the thing that my parents had always emphasized with me was we wouldn't be this upset if we didn't care. And I was always like, oh, I'd rather you not care, but I've grown to appreciate it, because it just takes one person to care. It just takes one person to care about you unconditionally and truly, to let you know that you're not alone. I'm gonna start tearing up. But yeah, just hug your parents if you can. Because during COVID, I had this Discord server. I mean, I still have it, and I had this whole section called Deep Talks, and essentially, I was people's therapist throughout quarantine, just talking about life, and we were just listening to sad music, and I said, guys, think about it. One day, you won't be able to run upstairs to give your parents a hug, and then we all left and went and hugged our parents. Not to think about stuff like that, but it's a reminder at the back of your head, because you don't want it to be too late. You don't want it to be too late. A friend of mine had just lost his dad unexpectedly, and I can never imagine the pain that he must be going through. And again, I can't imagine it, but all I can do is just be there and be a person that they can come to, and just ease it up a bit. And if you're in the same age range as I am, you'll notice this happening with people around you, and it does make you think. But don't wait until a situation where you're just thinking. I'd say. Okay, I'm gonna go on to the next one. How did you get into doing camera work with Drake? Would love to hear more about your story and come up. So after rewatching the first one, trying to understand why people related with it so much, I realized I made Drake sound like almost like a pedophile. He's not. Okay, I don't know why it came off like that. That's not what I meant. And I don't know. I do have a very interesting story of how I got into my work, and maybe one day, if people do want to hear more about it, I'll say it. But I currently work in the film industry. I work in commercials, and I'm a freelancer, and I work out of Toronto, Canada. And yeah, if people want to hear more about my story, I'm willing to say it, but not. I don't necessarily say it voluntarily. But maybe one day I'll go into it. This one is this. This is like me in my head in brackets. I'm something I don't think I can say on the internet. But no, I understand that. It's actually, I have a funny story. I was on set. We had an on-set counselor, and I was just talking with her, and she goes, "You're a neurodivergent." What? What is that? And I looked it up, and it was it's basically just a group of a group that contains all these different kind of mental things, which would be autism, ADHD, bipolar, depression, anxiety. I went, oh, so it's just a general term. I didn't take offense to it at all, but that's how I can relate to that. Here Before This blows in a few months' time. I think as in blows up, I guess. I don't think this will blow up. Remember Me When You're Famous. Not going to be famous. I think I mentioned about not doing. I tend to avoid situations where I would be famous. If that makes sense. I don't know. I don't really want that in life. I find that it's a lot on the psyche. Not that I couldn't handle the psyche aspect, but it's just not something I'd want out of my life. And I'd want, because I feel like it also, I mean, it could help me with charity work and spreading word, but I don't search for that. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking? I'm currently 24. I'm about to turn 25 in less than 10 days from today. Today is December 8th, 2023. And I think I always would say I've gone through my quarter life crisis at 20, just because I've been through a lot, and now I'm going through 20. I'm going to be 25. I it's a very odd time for me. It's got me thinking a lot. I'm also scared. I'm not scared of 30. I'm very excited for 30 because everything I hear about 30 is just it's your 20s with money. And I've always been a big person on working through your 20s so that you can try and get ahead. And I try not to party a lot, but it's hard. A good way to look at partying is just think to yourself, what do I have to celebrate, right? And this also touches on the subject of being grateful for what you have. And I truly am grateful for the things that I've done and have now, but I still don't feel that I'm at a point that I want to be at yet. And until I get there, I've decided I'm going to stop partying so much, just because I find that it's a bit of a waste of money. And with how things are nowadays, I don't think I should be, in terms of just the world and what people are going through. And, what do I have to celebrate right now? Not too much. So there's no point of me going out. And yeah, so those were the comments from the video. And when I found all these comments, it was yesterday. It had made me really happy. I was riding this crazy high. It was just nice to see people actually, connecting with what I said and connecting with the video. And I'm very appreciative of those people who did. And I'm very appreciative that, this is something that you can just kind of listen to in the background. And I'd like to spark some thoughts. Now, something that I've discovered recently, recently is within a few. I like to test things out. I'm also a skeptic of my own ideas, and something I've been testing for the past few months is this way to kind of relieve anxiety, because I know anxiety is a very big part today of the world, and something I've been telling my friends to do. It used to be something I just did at work, and then it turned into a thing, into almost like a lifestyle that I've grown into. And I've been teaching friends to do this because it does truly help you. But essentially, whenever you start to feel overwhelmed by something, or you're becoming anxious about things, I need to think of a good example. The best example I can give is just, when I'm at work and things just aren't working. I know I can fix them, and it just takes time, and you're just kind of getting overwhelmed with things. And, it's because you care. You're getting stressed because you care. And this does actually help for just stress in general. But what I do is I'll say this out loud, or if I'm with someone, I'll say it. And it has to be like this. It has to be, you want to know what I decided? And then they have to respond with what? You have to just say, I don't care. And you're almost essentially tricking yourself, right? And you just do it over and over again until you kind of feel that you'll feel the weight literally lift off your shoulders. And you just go, I decided I don't care. I don't care. It is important to care, and it's important to get things done. But I found this has helped with relations, with overthinking, especially. I'm a very big overthinker. And, from what I'm seeing here, it seems like there or from what I've experienced, there are a lot of overthinkers, and so I've told them this method, and they go, "Wow, this actually works." It's just about repetition, and just telling yourself that you don't care can actually, really, really benefit you for things. Now, it's important to care about things. Just don't care too much. Look, I'm not telling you to do this, but the way I see it is I see life as kind of a game. We're all here to play it. We're all trying our best. And, you can't take too many things seriously because, like I've talked about before, it's all about the bigger picture. Will something today be bothering you 5 years from now? Most likely not. So don't let it ruin majority of your time, because then you'll look back on it 5 years from now saying, why did I waste all my time thinking about that? I know it's a lot of the time it's usually relations with people. And, you know, us humans, we're actually programmed to feel another human's affection, another human's touch. And we just get so caught up in that and so invested into things that you need to really learn how to cut it off. You really need to learn how to control your emotional brain. Now, I don't know if I've talked about the emotional brain before here, but when the brain was developing, the first part of the brain that was developing was fight or flight, which is why it's the most prominent part of our brain, and it's so strong. If someone jumps out at you, you're either gonna run or you're gonna, maybe even punch him in the face. There are a lot of people like that, and the next part that had developed was the emotional brain, and so this is where you get all of your emotions from and your feelings, and feelings can't be put into words because they're not meant to be put into words. They're meant to just feel. And then the last part of the brain that developed was the logical side of the brain. And there is a bridge between all these parts. And, when you get really heated and upset, your emotional side of the brain will take over, which is why sometimes, if you get super mad, you go, oh, I see black. It's almost like you black out. And all you have to do in those situations is just take a second and breathe and just know. Because the emotional brain, if it's looking at a plate and there's a square hole, a star hole, and a circle hole, and you have wooden pieces that go in each hole, the emotional brain, if it was fully running, wouldn't be able to put the pieces in the right holes. And I know it sounds so crazy, but it's I promise you it's true. And so all you have to do is practice some breathing. There's this new breathing technique that a friend of mine showed me, which is taking a deep breath, and then once it's over, you take another small deep breath after that. So just be, and then you hold it and you slowly let it go, and then it'll calm you down. And then another topic on the anxiety aspect is you just have to also kind of tell yourself when these thoughts come up, just, these aren't my thoughts. These aren't my thoughts. This isn't me. And you just have to keep repeating that to yourself. Otherwise, it'll just take over. And, I get very anxious about that. And if you ask people around me, they'd be shocked if I said that. Because I'm always very outgoing and social with people. But that's because ever since I was younger, I had feared rejection from people. And I discovered this saying, and these people, they called it God mode, which is you would just go up to random people and say the most obscure things, and then you'd kind of just walk away. And that got me used to kind of going up to people and not really caring the thought or perception of me. And I kind of just kept that. But in order to do that, and this helped me do other things too, like go cliff jumping and do things I was scared of doing, which was I would just count down from 3 in my head. I know a lot of people say that, but if you truly just count down from 3 and then you turn off the rest of your thinking and then just do it, you will have stories that you never thought you would have. Like I went cliff jumping and I jumped off this 60-foot cliff, and I couldn't do it first. I watched someone else do it first. And then it was so scary. It was so scary. And it was the first cliff I'd ever jumped. But in my head, I just thought to myself, okay, you're going to count down from 3. You're going to run, you're going to jump, and that's it. Just make sure, body, please, don't fuck this up. It's very simple. Just do it. So count down from 3, and then I blacked out. Count up from 3, everything went black, and then all of a sudden I was at the bottom. I was safe, and I did it multiple times after that. And that, obviously it opened the chapter of me wanting to jump off more cliffs. But that sounded so odd. But it's true. It's true. And I love cliff jumping. And, it's something about getting over that mental restraint in your head. yeah, I always tell people live slightly outside of your comfort zone, because that's how you'll make memories. Because if you're always living within your comfort zone, and what's the point? You're comfortable doing anything. Like I'm comfortable just sitting at home all day, but what am I gonna tell people, a few years from now, like, oh yeah, what'd you always do? Oh, I just sat at home. I did nothing. And this isn't me saying, oh yeah, like go out and always be doing something. You always need to have your rest days. You always need to relax and have your time. But it is important to make memories, especially while you're young, because when you get older, the people around you start getting married, they start settling down, they don't go out as much. And I think I kind of fear that, I would say, because I'm so focused and prioritized on working right now. I'm scared that by the time I get to that point where I'm like, okay, like let's go out, guys, everyone's gonna be like, no, like we've had our time. So I think it's good to find that balance. I always find on the internet there's extremes on both, where like one side is don't go out in your 20s, work, blah, you can always party later. And then the other side, which is like, oh yeah, like use your 20s to party, like you're not gonna be young forever, you can always make money later. Like it's only those two sides. I think it's very important to find an in between of that, and it's very easy to get sucked into both sides, but you kind of have to have discipline on yourself. That's the most important bit, is just having discipline. And I'm also teaching myself that I need to have more discipline on myself, because I find that I'm very easily swayed towards both. And recently in this past year, I've been working on that work-life balance, because when I first started working, when I was 21 or 22, I didn't care about work-life balance. I said, no, just give me work. I want to work. I think it's that hunger coming out of school that you have that. And it's good to have that, especially to prepare your career and propel you to where you want to be. But, after a bit, you've got to learn to say if you work a 9 to 5, you have to, you can't just go home every day waiting for Friday. You have so much time after 5 p.m. to go and do things. Like a friend of mine, he works a 9 to 5. And since I'm freelance, I get culture shock sometimes when I hear about 9 to 5. Like, I'd booked this room at this village up north to go snowboarding, and I'd booked it with 2 of my friends, and I wanted another one of my friends to come. And so I had called him, and I said, hey man, like I booked this. Do you want to come? It's in a few days, and I'd love for you to come. And he goes, I can't. I said, why not? It's January. It was January like 9th or 10th or something like that. He goes, I used up all my vacation days. Oh no, or was it December? It might have been December. Yeah, he goes, I've used up all my vacation days. And like that for some reason hadn't been in my head in a long time, because again, I had worked in a job kind of like that. I worked as a host at a restaurant before I worked in film, and I've worked different retail jobs. I'd never been really in the corporate world. He goes, I've used up all my vacation days. I said, well, like, what if you called in sick or something? Don't you get paid if you do that? He goes, yeah, I've used up those days too. And that kind of blew my mind, thinking of that, because I'm a very big person in spontaneity and quick little adventures, which is why the freelancing works for me. Obviously, it's not for everyone, because a lot of people need to know that they're working for the next week. Yeah, sometimes I don't know if I'm working until a few days before. But I've grown to be okay with that. That's okay with me, because it took me a while to get to this, but I've thrown faith into the world that I'll end up working, and that has helped me ease up a bit, because I used to freak out all the time about that. But yeah, so I that had shocked me. But what he had done was, after work he'd go climbing, or he'd have these and what he did recently was he actually started a culinary class and learned how to cook and stuff. And I think my mom had taught me this. My mom's a very big person in continuous learning. Life will always teach you things, and it's always important to, continue learning. Learning shouldn't stop at school. about a year after I'd graduated, I kind of missed the aspect of learning. I know it sounds dumb, but it's nice to ingest information. And so what I would start doing was when I had free time at work, I'd start reading on my phone, and that has actually helped me with a lot of different things. And I think it's really important to continue learning. And once you're out of school, you're no longer forced to learn. But when you want to learn on your own terms, it becomes a lot more fun, and you really want to do it. So I'd suggest, if you're working a 9 to 5, or if you're working freelance on your free days, try and have a day. If you have a day off designated, try and use that day to learn a new skill. Learn a new aspect of life. After the pandemic, and after all the restrictions started lifting up, it was a good time for a lot of people to learn. Like, I know people who learned how to play guitar. I know people who learned how to code, and they had a full-on career switch after that. My biggest question to people, especially when I first met them, I said, what was the one thing you learned during COVID? Because it's very interesting to know how people handled that situation. Because obviously some people were luckier than others, and I do empathize with the people who did go through a lot of losses. But there were a lot of good things that came out of it. It personally had helped me in terms of sitting down, learning what I wanted to learn, and actually got me into what I'm doing now, which I'm definitely grateful for. But being forced to stay inside to learn something shouldn't be the way that you learn it. And if reading is something that you don't necessarily do, there's a ton of video essays on YouTube, and again, you can take up a class. There's a lot of free classes online. But just continue learning, because you'll find that your brain then continues to expand. Because there's this thing where your brain stops developing at 25. But it doesn't mean it stops learning. It just means that your kind of personal habits become more in stone with your brain, because it's how you've been thinking. But this is also why I always tell people to microdose shrooms, because it reopens those routes. And the way that I tend to describe it is, first I'll say, imagine you drive to work and it's in one place every day. So you'll try different routes, but then you end up finding the fastest route. And so you end up taking that route every day. And then, there's traffic one day, and there's traffic on that route that you had found. But in your head, you're thinking, no, this is the fastest route. That just means that there's more traffic on the other routes. So what microdosing does essentially is it's like using Waze or using maps, where it has traffic and it'll take you to the actual fastest route. And even with that, if you're not comfortable with that, meditation helps a lot. It does. And I know a lot of people say it, and a lot of people say, oh, it doesn't work on me. But you've got to really stick to it, because there is this turning point that everyone will reach within meditation, and that really, really helps people think a bit more clearly. I think it's also important to think about yourself from, an outer view of you, as if you're in GTA or whatever. If you see yourself from an outside point of view, it does help you perceive yourself and how you uphold yourself, and always try and work to make yourself better. Now I've gone completely off topic. I have no idea what I'm talking about now. Just went on a little rant. Now there is a question I do want to ask anyone who's willing to answer is, actually I'll say a story before. There are a few people in my life that have kind of stuck through my life, and we've changed and grown together, and we've never grown apart. And, whenever I get into my bad days or get upset, I'll think of them, and it'll bring me up. I'm just curious to know how many other people kind of have that person. Not necessarily your person, but just, someone who's always been there. And I think it's really fun to kind of go through life and remember life with them. And think about it, if life were different, if things were different and you had never met them. And then on top of that is think about the people who are negatively affecting you. and think about what life would be without them. And something to help you as well is to think about if you do need to do a little pruning, think I've lived life without you. I can continue to do so now. Just hold the memories. Oh no. It's another important thing I think it's fun to think about is just life chapters. You know, we all go through life chapters, no matter who you are. You always go through relatively the same life chapters, and this kind of touches on the topic of parents as well, of them saying, you know, I've done what you've done, I've been what you've been, and I've started taking, you know, my parents' advice a lot more after realizing that if they have been what I've been through and done what I've done, they probably have a good reading on people, especially my friends. And you know, as you grow older, you start to value your friends a lot. But there are some that are truly bad for you, and they may not, you know, express it, or you may not see it. But sometimes your parents have this instinct, and they can. And again, this isn't creating a reliance on them, but it's kind of just hearing them out and understanding that, yeah, oh, okay, maybe I'll look towards this, because not everyone you meet can be a good person. A lot of people want things, and it's hard to trust people nowadays, especially because usually people want things, and it also depends on where you are in the world. I find that where I am now, there are a lot of genuine people, but there's also a lot of insincere people and people looking for something specific. And I don't like the people looking for something specific. There's this street here. It's called King Street. You go there to party usually if you're 19 to like 22, and then the people who stay there past 30 are the ones who are kind of stuck there. See, you can't really define people on age, but it is a very big indicator. You know, I hear these stories about these 30-year-olds, and I just think to myself, wow, I really hope I don't end up like thinking like that, because a lot of them are playing. I call it the game. I know a lot of people do too, but they're just playing the game with you know, younger girls, and I'm hearing these things, and I think to myself, wow, I remember when I used to say that stuff in high school, and I always found that the people there were kind of stuck in that high school mentality. And I say this a lot, and this isn't even me promoting hate towards any group of people, but I just again, people are always looking for something. It's hard to trust people, and it's hard to understand what they're actually looking for, whether it be a full-on platonic relation, or they want something from you, or you're a connection that can lead to new connections that they want. And it is important to help out the people around you and help bring them up, but always be wary of people, which is also why I do rely on my you know, the feeling of if I can vibe with someone. I rely on that one heavily. Recently, I used to not trust it, but now I do trust it, because it's my inner self, you know, kind of doing the filtering. And you should trust your instincts. It is important to trust your instincts. Something I think that, you know, is really important to think about sometimes is how can you help someone more than others have helped them. I go to this gym, and there's this girl there. At first I was like, oh wow, she's really pretty. She worked there. And then we got to talking. She was really into art, and obviously I work in the arts. And so we got to talking, and she would always say how she has all these ideas, and just she couldn't finish them and all this stuff. And I just kept saying, just do it. Like, just get it out. Just get it out of your head. Get it out of your mental world. Bring it into the physical world. That's what you need to do. And then I stopped going for a few months because I was busy with work. I can't really go while I'm at work, and I've just recently started going again consistently. And I saw her, and so we had some time to catch up. And you know, she ended up saying, "Oh, like since the last time we talked, you actually inspired me, and I you know, went to school for this now, and like I all these things. I started doing this, and it's really nice to hear. And back in high school, I started this thing which was called Thank It Forward, because in my high school we had all these leadership camps, and those they did change my life. They changed how I thought, and they changed my head from thinking about me to thinking about everyone and being inclusive to everyone. And so there were certain, when you're going into high school, you're so scared. I don't know about you, but I was so scared. I was terrified. Especially also there's this video had come out. I remember it was in the summer between me going from elementary school to high school. And it was this horrible, horrible video of these 7 guys beating up this one guy, all high schoolers. And the one guy was Asian. And in my head, I thought, oh, like, is this what happens? Like, people just want to beat up people when they're Asian. And so, yeah, I was afraid that this is just what happens, is that people beat you up because you're Asian. And I'm half Asian. And I was terrified to go into high school. And so going to this leadership camp was really helpful, because the older guys were just so accepting, and it felt really nice. And that became a thing where I really wanted to emphasize that. It's just being nice to everyone and being accepting of everybody, because you don't know who's scared. Some people are able to hide it, but you never know who's really, really terrified. And just being a person to say it's okay really, really helps. It really, really does. And this doesn't pertain to even just being young. This happens when you're older, when you're going into a new field, or, you're meeting a new person. You can be so scared. It is easy to just say, hey, like, it's okay. I'm here. I'm listening. I'm looking at you, and there's nothing to be afraid of. And that it does go a long way. It truly does. In high school, I used to have this thing. It was called just Thank It Forward, kind of like Pay It Forward. But you never know who changes your life until they say thank you. Sometimes it could be from the smallest thing. Just like when one of the assignments I had given was just to compliment a small thing about someone to make their day. Maybe a few months later you'll get a thank you, and just like what happened at the gym, I got a thank you, and it's really nice, because again, it doesn't validate what you do. Like, in a sense, it's more like it's more so like, oh, like I did do that. Like that was me. And I think it is very important to continue to do that. And so I would say the assignment for this video, it doesn't pertain to going with other people. You can do this with other people or not, but just find a day and just kind of indulge in nature, indulge in a hike. For me, it's winter. I personally like hiking in the winter, because then no one's around, and it's very, very quiet, because the snow acts as like a sound damper. It's very quiet, and kind of just, it's fun to go with a friend and just chat and just walk and surround yourself in nature. And if you really feel like you don't want to do it, it's probably when you should. That's a big thing I like to say. Like, if you really don't feel like going to the gym, that's the time when you should go to the gym, because you're then conquering a mental hurdle you're putting in front of yourself, and then you feel so much more accomplished after. The assignment's more of just, surpassing a mental hurdle that you place on yourself, because we tend to do that a lot. We tend to say, no, I can't do that. Oh, it's because of this. It's because we create excuses. It's really important to, sure, yeah, make those excuses, but you're going to end up not doing anything about it. Just break a little bit out of your comfort zone. Do something you're just a slightly bit uncomfortable with. Obviously doing it for the better. And yeah, I'd say try that out, because I'll tell you, it is very, very rewarding to your brain. When it's cold and like there's snow on the ground, you dress up, you bundle up and go on that hike, have a bit of deeper conversation with a friend. Some things to inspire the deeper conversations is just essentially, what is it that you're looking out of life? What is it that you want? What is it that you truly desire, without it being a materialistic thing? And who are the people closest to you that have affected you the most? Who are the people that have changed you the most? and have you said thank you to them? Ask those kind of questions, and I'm telling you, it'll be a nice long conversation, and you end up to start making some good questions after that too. And yeah, again, I'd like to thank everyone who had watched the first one, and everyone who had commented on each one. It truly does mean a lot to me, and I do hope that I could help certain aspects of your life and make things a little bit better for you. And I do want to help as many people as I can, as many as I can, because I think we need more of that in the world. Just people there purely just to help others who feel that they've been dealt the wrong cards. I'm reading this new book right now. I'll get more into it maybe in another one. But essentially it's saying you thinking you have been dealt the wrong cards is also holding you back. You just have to change your own reality and think, I can do this. I can do this. I can get this. I can do that. And just constantly telling yourself that you can do it. Because if you tell yourself you can't, obviously you won't be able to. It's like when you're at the gym, setting a certain amount of reps, you're going to get to that number, then your body's going to be like, okay, like that's the number we set. We're done. And the whole mental, push past that is going past that until you fail. Always do things for the betterment of humanity. Always be inclusive. Always try and make someone's day, even if you're having a bad one. And yeah, thank you again for, if you did sit through this whole thing, thanks for watching. And you can check this out on Spotify. It's called Dude on a Couch. Because I know sometimes it's hard to have YouTube up all the time, and so this is on Spotify if you want to just listen to it on your walk to work or anything. And shout to Leah and Julia for inspiring me to put it on Spotify for their hot girl walk, as they say. And yeah, appreciate you. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.